What is up, guys? It's your boy Sticky D back in my very cluttered office that I refer to as Sticky D Studios. Got some time here in the off season to get caught up on editing and that sort of thing, and wanted to get caught up on some vlog topics that I've been thinking about over the fall. And this one I've been brainstorming for a long time, just trying to figure out the best way to go about it. But I want to talk about running Sony cameras, Sony Alpha cameras. Whether you're running an A6300, A6500, Sony A7 series, if that's an A7S, A7 III, A7R III, and the like. I have quite a bit of experience running these cameras. I love running these cameras. I think that right now they are the best bang for your buck if you are a videographer or photographer in the outdoor field. And I wanted to go over some of the modes and settings that I run in those cameras, get a little bit more in depth just to kind of help your workflow and help you be more efficient when you're running and gunning in the field. So first of all, I want to go over the modes a little bit. I am almost 100% running in manual mode, just so that I can, I'm not limited by being in video mode, even when I'm doing a video project. A lot of times I just want to snap pics of stuff as I see it happen, and I don't like doing that in video mode. One of the pluses of being in video mode is you get the audio bars all the time. I don't really need that. As long as I check my audio one time, I'm typically pretty good, and then I'm monitoring that as I'm recording things as we're shooting. So I really like manual mode, keeping your ISO in manual, your f-stop in manual, and your shutter speed fixed depending on what frame rate you're shooting. Typically shooting 24 frames a second or 120 frames a second, whether I want to do landscapes or slow motion, that sort of thing, or just plain dialogue scenes. So then I'm usually locking my shutter speed at either 1/50 if I'm in 4K 24 or 1/250 if I'm in 1080 120. So that's just basic settings there. White balance, I am almost always customizing via the Kelvin temp. I don't like running in auto white balance. It's been something that I've talked to a lot of guys about that still run in that setting, and I'm not really sure why they do it, just because when you get in post, your color's changing during a clip, from clip to clip, based on what the camera is guessing the light temp should be at. So I like setting that. When I'm outdoors, I'm typically around 5,700 to 6,000 Kelvin, and then when I'm indoors, depending on the lighting, I'm usually between 3,500 to 4,500. 4,000 is usually that sweet spot that I just jump to right away, and then I adjust from there. Running in those custom white balances, I think, really helps you in post, because then you can kind of go and color all your clips at one time that we're filming that certain scene. You're not checking each one or throughout the clip having to change when you go inside and all of a sudden it gets really blue or really yellow. You can kind of fix that a little better, I think, when you're doing the white balance manually. Custom buttons, this is a topic that I've wanted to talk about for a long time, because I mean, everybody thinks they've got everything figured out. I've had a lot of hands-on experience with these Sony Alpha cameras, and I think that I have a really good way to set up all the custom buttons so that you are very efficient. After you shoot a few days, it just becomes really fluid to run the way that I do. And setting up and optimizing your camera with the custom buttons is like the most satisfying feeling to me. It's like, oh, I got a button for that. Oh yeah, I just hit this button and I get to do that. So I'm just gonna start from the top. C1, I've changed to the movie or record button so that it's right up by the shutter. I'm taking pictures, and then I wanna start recording a clip. A lot of our stuff is run and gun, so it's happening. I only get one chance to get photos and video of it. So I'll snap a couple pics, wait for those pictures to buffer and load onto my SD card, and then I hit record, and then I can record whatever's happening, stop, and immediately start shooting right here. I don't have to fumble around and look for this record button on the back side and take my eye away from the viewfinder. Oh, where's that button at again? I just like having it right here. Switch finger, record, shutter. So that's my, my main thing that I think I change for the custom buttons. But C2 right next to that is how I change my audio level. So if I'm recording a clip and I'm running in a shotgun or a wireless and I see that it's really hot or really low, I just hit C2, work the wheel, and adjust as needed. It's nice to have that on the fly, so you're not digging through your menus to find that option. I don't even remember what page it's buried on, and I would guess you guys don't either. So it's nice having that button right there. Oh man, I don't want this audio to be blown out. Hit that button, scroll it down, you're good to go. Custom button 3, I've changed to my focus modes so I can hop from manual to auto. to me, that just helps a lot out when running in the field and all of a sudden I want to switch to get a bunch of pictures of a sequence. I could switch that to auto and get it all in focus, versus when I'm doing video, a lot of times I'm in manual, almost always. So I can switch back and forth really easily with that button right there. Just boom, auto, boom, manual, and I can continue along capturing footage or photos. So C4 is my white balance changer button. I just hit that button while I'm on my viewfinder, my back screen. Hit that and I can change my temp really quickly. You can't do it while you're recording, so you do have to stop recording, hit that C4, change your temp, and then start recording again. But to me, that's a lot easier than having to hit function, scroll over, and change it. So I just like having that right there from when you go outside, inside. Really easy to have that button right there. So that's my first 4, and then I get a little bit more technical, changing some of the other buttons that aren't considered custom buttons. But my down button on my wheel, I've changed to my silent shutter or audible shutter, just because a lot of times I don't want that shutter sound. But then sometimes when you are doing either portraits or studio stuff, and when you want somebody to know that you're snapping pics, I'll turn that on. But obviously a lot of times when you're in the field, you don't want that shutter sound. So I've just changed that. It's really easy to toggle on and off by the down button. And a couple of the other buttons that I've messed with other than the custom buttons are the AEL, the AF on, and then my center or select button in the middle of the control wheel, and they all have to do with focus. So I'm gonna kind of talk about those 3 here real quick. I've changed my AF on to basically a back button focus for when I am in autofocus, so that you pull focus one time and then you hold AF on and continue to hit that shutter. It's not focusing each shot, so you're keeping whatever item was in focus. To me, that's a pretty big help. A lot of photographers use that, and I think it just really helps out in consistency between shots. And this is a pretty cool feature that I saw on another vlog that I've integrated into my own mix now, is the AEL button. There is an option on Sony cameras where you can go into the settings and change that to control hold. And basically what that does is when I'm in manual mode, in manual focus, I can hit AEL and it autofocuses for me before I start recording a clip or before I take a photo. It doesn't do it in between photos or while you're recording, but right before I start a clip, a lot of times I will just hit AEL and boom, 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 my lens focuses on the subject, and then it's good to go. I can hit record or push that shutter and my shot is on, crispy, love it. So that's a huge help, not having to mess with the focus ring when you're in manual mode to start your shot. A lot of times you do that and then it jumps in, does that fine focus, and then you're kind of hunting and you gotta check it 3 times and you're never quite satisfied. So hitting that AEL, boom, in focus, good to go. Huge help. Really has saved a lot of time and made me more efficient in getting those crispy shots off the bat. And then my center button that I mentioned in the middle of the wheel, that is like a select button. While I'm recording or before I'm recording, if I'm just on my finder, like just searching my frame, I can double tap that and it is my fine focus. And I've put no limit on that, no time limit, so you can tap in and it jumps into, I believe it's like 5 power or something like that. So then you can really see that crisp focus. And I actually use it a lot when we're out west and we're glassing a buck, and I can tap in and I can be in tight. Let's say I'm on 400 millimeters crop sensor, which I'll talk about in a minute. And so basically 600 millimeters, and then I tap in even further on the fine focus. I can look at a deer that's over a mile away and tell you how many tines he's got and if he's got stickers coming off of his G2 just based off of that fine focus. Not to mention how much it helps on actually keeping things in focus. And while I'm recording clips and a deer's coming in, a lot of my audio, if I'm just using a shotgun mic, you can hear tap, 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 tap as I'm double tapping into making sure my focus is set. And what's nice is then you just clear it with the shutter. So tap, tap in, check your focus, half shutter, comes out. So you can go back to that full frame punch, and to me that's helped a lot in keeping my shots crispy in focus as a deer's coming in, and just keep checking. Am I in focus? Tap, tap in, check my focus, and shutter out, and then watch them. It's a huge help. So I would highly recommend that, along with the control hold to get you in focus before you start shooting. And then this is where things get a little bit more advanced. as I've been experimenting more with my Sonys, I found out that this mode is actually really useful. I was a little skeptical about it at first, but the APS-C crop mode on the Sonys is awesome. Basically turns whatever lens you're into from a full frame to a crop lens. This is a 100 to 400 millimeter lens, automatically turns this to a 150 to 600. How sweet is that? That's in 120 frames per second, 1080 or 4K. And it still holds that quality in those modes. That was one thing that I was really sad about leaving the A7S II from, was losing the 2.2 crop when you're in 1080, 120. And now I can emulate that or get close to it just by toggling into APS-C mode, which I've changed on my wheel here to the right button. So I'm filming, you can't do it while you're filming, but I'm filming in full frame and I want to get a little bit tighter. I'm zoomed in all the way and it's like I can just punch in a little bit further, maintain that f-stop. I don't have to lose any quality. All I do is toggle right and boom, jumps into another 1.5 power on whatever lens I'm using. So it really comes in handy for a lot of these different lenses. You know, turning a 50 millimeter lens 1.8 into a 70 millimeter 1.8, pretty awesome. Now, I will say it does change the resolution or megapixels of your end photos, but as far as I can tell on the video side of things, it's really not changing much. I can still punch in if I'm in 4K even further, you know, I can crop down and still hold really, really good quality. So to me, that is a huge addition or something that you should check out and learn to use on your Sony cameras, because a lot of guys, you know, they can't afford all these different lenses, or, you know, they're not familiar with them. So having a 70 to 200 millimeter lens is, you know, it leaves a little bit to be desired on the long telephoto side of things. So you can toggle it and then you're at 300 millimeters f2.8. That's pretty darn good when you're filming a bow hunt or something like that. So really, really good option is that APS-C sensor option on these Sony cameras, if you have a full frame camera, that is. So then after that, I've changed, used to be to tap right to change my ISO and then work the wheel. I just changed it to work the wheel and that changes my ISO. So it's just really easy to, okay, it's getting, go from a dark scene to a light scene, switch it down to ISO 100, just scroll real quick rather than having to tap and then you get that judder of moving your camera when you tap it. Just scroll, good to go. I really like that. Now, getting into customizing your camera a little bit further is the actual custom modes on the dial on the top of your camera. This is something that I just started getting more into in the last couple months, and it's been a huge help. So I basically set my 1 and my 2. My 1 mode is for landscapes, it's for interviews and dialogue, that sort of thing. So I keep that locked at 4K, 24 frames a second. You're gonna wanna put on your smallest, largest aperture lens, smallest f-stop. So my 1.8 I put on there when I set this. I lock my aperture as high as it'll go, my f-stop as low as it'll go, 1.8, so that when I slap on my 100 to 400, boom, it's automatically at 4.5. It just keeps your aperture wide open. But having that mode from 1 to 2, where 1 is set at my 4K, and then switching to 2, that's my 1080, 120 frames per second. It's a lot easier than having to dig in your menu, even though I've changed some of the settings in my menu to have more of those optimized. Just being able to toggle that switch and boom, I'm in 4K, boom, I'm in 120, and it's at all the previous settings that you had on there. Super, super helpful. Really, really made things a lot easier. I wish I would have started doing that a long time ago. And then this is another, I guess, preference that I have. Some of the other guys on the crew, I know Mike doesn't do this. To me, I think it really helps out. I've changed on, what's nice about the Sony A7 series is the A7 III and the A7 R3 have dual card slots. So I've changed it so that my slot 1 card, which gets a little bit faster read-write speed, is logging all of my photos. And then my top slot, my 2 slot, which doesn't write quite as quickly, that's my video card. So at the end of the day, if someone is editing photos or logging footage, I just have to hand them 1 card and they have just that photo or that video. And then I can take the other card and simultaneously work on editing photos or dumping the footage. It's nice to, you know, at the end of the day, oh, I got some photos on this card, I also want to dump this footage. All right, well, I just have to pull 1 card out and I know what's on that card. To me, it's very organized. I like that a lot. Knowing that those slots are, you know, specialized for different things, to me it just makes a lot of sense to do it that way. But as I've used these cameras a lot more, there's more and more that I'm learning, more and more that I'm trying to figure out and kind of get fluent in, and, you know, really smooth and efficient. So I think that I'm pretty far along in that process. There's definitely some other things that I'd really like to learn. If you guys have other suggestions that I'm missing that have made your life easier in running these cameras, drop them in the comments below. I'd like to hear about them. If you have any questions about how some of this stuff is done, just drop some comments. I'll be sure to check in and try and help you guys along. But I hope that this makes sense. I hope that this helps you guys out. Just kind of your workflow and your efficiency, I think, is going to be a little bit better just by changing some of this stuff, so it's all right here. You don't have to dig through any menus. And yeah, I think that that's a pretty good wrap on it. I'll let you guys get along with your day. Thanks for checking it out, and we'll see you in the next one. Sticky D out.